Hey guys, it's Rami over here, and I thought I'll just make a video tonight. Just a video being pretty raw, pretty real. I think when it comes to talking about personal issues where you know you could help other people, I think it's important for people to speak out about stuff like that. This topic is about gambling addiction. So I was addicted to gambling, and I was addicted to gambling for about 2 years. I would spend my fortnightly wage in about 4 days. So for about 10 days out of the fortnight, I would be broke as a joke. And I kept doing this to myself, and I barely won. I just kept losing money. And it's very strange because I don't even remember how this addiction began, but all I remember really was the process of how I managed to see that I was addicted and how I managed to pull myself out, which is possibly how I could help you. First thing was, I remember when I would spend my fortnightly wage in 4 days, and after I'd lose and lose and lose again, I would go back to my car, and I would go back to my car and just sit there alone in the dark, bursting out in tears. And I would speak to myself in the car. I would speak to myself and ask myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I used to say this line over and over again: Rami, you're better than this. You're better than this. What are you doing? You're smarter than this. So look, I was aware. At least I had that self-awareness that I'm better than what I'm doing. And I had that acknowledgement, and I kept saying it to myself because it was the truth. And it's very likely the truth about you. If you're addicted to gambling, you are better than that. You are smarter than that. So I used to do that. I used to go to my car, bawl my eyes out, speak to myself like a crazy person, and then go home. Nobody knew that I was addicted to gambling. I was very good at hiding it, and nobody knew. No one would have had a clue, and no one did have a clue, which is why when I came out as a gambling addict, a lot of my family and friends were absolutely shocked. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that I lost about $22,000 of my cold hard earned cash. Just gone. That's just the estimate. Like, I feel like it was way more than that, and it possibly was. I wasn't counting. I was just losing. I didn't go to gamble to really win. Like, I didn't care. I didn't care if I won or I lost. Like, obviously by the end of the night I would be upset if I lost, but during the whole gambling period, if I won, I remember if I would win, my face would be stone cold. Like, there'll be no expression. I was just like sitting there hitting take win and then just keep gambling. There was no emotion to it. It was almost like I was just completely brainwashed, like my brain had fizzled. And that's what it felt like, because as I kept gambling and losing or winning, I noticed there was just no expression. I was like a zombie. And then it started to dawn on me that perhaps I wasn't fascinated with the money, because I know myself. I'm not I'm not greedy. I don't care about money. What it was for me was the sights, the sounds. I feel like the visual, the audio, all that drew me in. I was basically being brainwashed into these sensations, and that's what drew me in. That's what I believe. I still don't know to this day. So it was that awareness of, hey, I don't really care if I win. I'm not doing this for the money. I must be doing it for some other reason. I'm addicted for some reason, and that's something that I was aware of. So there are these signs, but the signs kept coming for me. The next sign for me was a very important one, and it's something I remember very clearly. I was sitting in one of the pubs in my local area about 11 p.m. and I was there doing my zombie thing, pushing a button, staring at a screen. That was it. And I remember, like, I felt just a bit like lightheaded. So I just stopped pushing that button for a second. When I stopped pushing that button, I took a deep breath. And I leaned back, I leaned back on my chair, and all I did was look at my environment. I looked to my left, I looked to my right. To my left, I remember I saw a guy punching the screen, punching the pokey machine in a rage. I was just looking at that guy. I was like, damn, it's pretty intense. Then I looked to my right and I saw some guy pick up his mobile phone. His wife was calling. I saw him hit the reserve button on the machine and run outside because he didn't want his wife to know he was addicted to gambling. And he was living this whole secret life. It was such a depressing scene. I was looking around me. I was like, look, man, I don't want to boast. I know who I am. I know my worth. I was looking at my environment. I was like, what am I doing here? What on earth am I doing here? I don't belong here. That was a big awakening. And that almost tipped me over. That almost tipped me over, but I kept coming back. Then there was another sign. Another sign was I was at one of the bigger RSL clubs, and this is pretty intense. I was at one of the RSL clubs, and a guy came up to me, my age, and he said, "Hey, don't I know you from somewhere?" I said, "I don't think so." He asked me what school I went to. I told him, and he said, "Oh, no, you look really familiar. I think we know mutual friends or something." I said, "Okay, maybe. I don't remember." This guy seemed really friendly, really down to earth and friendly and chatty, and I had no issue with him. Anyways, he kind of wished me luck with my gambling, and he walked away. This guy came back about an hour later, and of course I'm still on that same machine, losing. He comes back to me, and it's pouring rain outside, and he says to me, "Hey, bro," he's like, "Do you mind just, dropping me off to my car because it's pouring rain outside?" So I looked outside and it was really heavy rain. I said, "You know what? Okay, no worries. I'm finishing up. I'll drop you to your car." So I walked with this fellow, really a stranger, to my car, and we go inside my car, and we drive to his car just a few minutes away, out on the street, and I pull over, and he makes a comment, and he taps my leg, and I was like, "Okay, man," I was like, "Have a good night," and I shook his hand, and then he kind of tapped me on my traps up here. And he said to me, he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "You're really tense." He's like, "I'm a masseuse by trade." I said, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're really tense, man." And he said, "I noticed when I tapped your leg that you were very tense as well." He's like, "Don't you stretch?" And I was just like, "Actually, I don't stretch, but whatever. No big deal." Anyways, what this guy did next was he was touching my trap again, and I was getting a bit awkward. And he said to me, "No, man," he's like, "Look at this." He's like, "This is not normal, blah, blah, blah. You need to see someone for that. You need a massage." And he was rubbing my trap up here, and I was just like, "Okay." And he's like, "No, brother, seriously, that's really tense, really tight, blah, blah, blah." And then he said, "Your leg as well down there." And he tapped my leg again. And he started rubbing my leg. And I was just like, "Sorry, dude, what are you doing?" And he kept rubbing. And I said, "Sorry, you're gonna have to leave." He grabs my hand. And he's basically fighting with me in my car. And he wanted to make some advance on me in my own car. So I went apeshit. I just yelled at him, I honked the horn, I told him to get the fuck out of my car. And he left. And again, I looked at this situation and I realized, how is this my scene? How are these my people? I'm intelligent, I'm wise, and I'm in this situation where I'm with this guy that's trying to sexually assault me in my car, whom I met gambling. That was another huge straw for me. But guess what? I kept going. I kept coming back. Until something so simple finalized the deal for me. And this won't work for everyone because I'm different to you, you're different to me. I respect that. But I have my faith. And my faith is Islam. That's what I believe. I'm a Muslim, and that is my ideology, and everyone has a different one, and I respect you, and I hope you can respect me for mine. But at the end of the day, there was something that just sealed the deal for me, and I got really close to doing it on my own, and I was in that process, I feel, but it was just very slow. And then the tipping point where I just stopped was when I stumbled across a verse in the Quran. And the Quran is like the holy book for Muslims. And the verse was so clear. And it said, "Oh, you who believe." That's addressing me because I do believe. Again, it's possibly not addressing you if you don't. It said, "Oh, you who believe, avoid intoxicants and gambling if you should be successful." And it was something as simple as that. The second I fully read that and understood that, and the power of those words it had, because all the gambling machines had, "Are you a gambling addict? Call this number." Never once did it cross my mind. I didn't care about that. It didn't sink in. But when I read the verses in the Quran that were addressing me and telling me, hey, if you want to succeed, stop gambling, I did that. And it worked. I'm no longer a gambling addict. I'm clean from all that. And, for the last 7 years or so, I've been saving money and I've been on this fantastic streak, and financially I'm so stable, thank God. And I did that eventually. And guys, if you're in this grip of gambling addiction, you need to ask yourself so many questions. Not only do you need to ask yourself questions, you need to look at your environment more. Stop with the processing, because all of this is just clear brainwashing. Stop with the rhythm, stop with the repetitive motion, and just take a deep breath, like what I did. Take a step back, observe your environment. Ask yourself, should you be in this environment? Is this environment you? Think about it. A lot of these questions will start popping up. Look at the crowd, look at the environment. Look at how it makes you feel, look at how it makes others feel, look at what it's doing for you. And you'll come to realize that this industry, the gambling industry, that's making, that's destroying lives essentially, is part of a system. And you don't have to be a part of that system. And you need to get out. If you're sucked in, you need to get out of that system if you want to proceed in your life and be successful. Because you can escape. I'm proof of that. I was caught in a tight grip for over 2 years. I lost so much freaking money. And I was depressed, but nobody knew. But it was all of these signs that came together eventually that made me stop. And thank goodness that I was self-aware enough and that I was open to accepting change. And I did that. And if you're a gambling addict, guys, I hope my tips helped. Just think about it. And I want that success for you. And you're worth it. You are so worth it. Peace out. Lots of love. Thank you so much for watching. And it felt good to really open up to you guys. Have a good night.